Hello and welcome to the Gaggle What We Challenge, and if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of the Gaggle, Peter Lavelle. So, Peter, some time ago, the ICC chief prosecutor, Karim Khan, had declared that he would seek an arrest warrant for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the Defense Minister Gallant, and then also for Sinwar, the leader of Hamas. And then nothing happened. He just said he was going to seek the arrest warrant, and then time just went by, and that was that. And then, to my surprise, and I guess to a number of people's surprise, yesterday the ICC issued an arrest warrant for Benjamin Netanyahu and now former Defense Minister Gallant. Sinwar is, of course, dead, and so that issue is moot. But there is another figure of Hamas that Dave that they have issued an arrest warrant, but Israel claims that they've already killed him. So we don't, that also may be moot. Obviously, there's not a great deal that the ICC can do. I mean, they can't. They don't have the mechanism to enact arrest warrants. But the response from, of course, Israel and from the United States was being predictably ferocious and indeed filled with
Well, I hope the Hague
threats.
has an air defense system because it could become the target of the United States.
Exactly. So first of all, here's the let me just take a look. Here's the first of all the statement of Karim Khan, who's he talks about this Mohabit Diab, blah blah, Dave, and saying, and then the judges of the International Criminal have found reasonable grounds to believe that he is responsible for the crimes against humanity, murder, extermination, and so on. And then he is basically that was his. He talked about the Netanyahu. I think maybe have I lost the slide for Netanyahu? Okay, but basically, I mean, he's charged. Netanyahu and Gallant are crimes against humanity and using starvation as a means of war.
That's what caught my eye first.
Right, exactly.
Starvation.
That's right. And then, of course, Biden issued a statement. The ICC issuance of arrest warrants against Israeli leaders is outrageous. Let me be clear once again. Whatever the ICC might imply, there is no equivalence, none between Israel and Hamas. We will always stand with Israel against threats to its security.
Well, but there is equivalence here. That's in the most bizarre, even shameful way, there is equivalence for the first time. The Palestinians are in the same category
Right.
as the Israelis.
Right.
That's what enrages Zionists, that the Palestinians have been elevated because the Israelis, they have their grievances. Sure, it's your right to have grievances, but the Palestinians as well. And a third party, an internationally recognized court, recognizes the parity of those grievances. That's quite interesting.
But it's very yeah, I mean, obviously, I mean, I don't take the ICC terribly seriously.
Well, see, okay, you already got way ahead of us here. I mean,
Right.
George and I, we have quite a bit of disdain for the ICC.
Right.
Okay. So when the ICC does something right, I feel like I have to eat crow because I never expect them to do the right thing. Okay. I mean, it's the International Court of Caucasians, as people like to joke. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Because they judge everyone else. Now, I'll take a win when I can get it. Okay. Well, I'll take it. I'll take the win. But this institution has been so corrupted. All right. George knows very preeminent expert when it comes to the former Yugoslavia.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that's right. So in any case, the we have the Netanyahu, of course, issued a statement. And of course, first words, the anti-Semitic decision of the ICC is a modern Dreyfus trial and will end in the same way. So, I mean, the idea of bringing up Dreyfus from
Yeah, 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 yeah.
150 years ago. But so Israel utterly rejects the false and absurd charges of the ICC, a biased and discriminatory political body. No war is more just than the war Israel has been waging in Gaza since October the 7th, 2023, when the Hamas terrorist organization launched a murderous assault and perpetrated the largest massacre against the Jewish people since the Holocaust. So you've already
It's
brought up.
not a war. It's not a war.
No,
It's an
no,
operation of annihilation.
right. Yeah. So he's already brought up anti-Semitic, and of course he's brought up the Holocaust and the massacre as against the
Yeah, but in these three short paragraphs here, the Prime Minister's Office of Israel is not confronting the allegations on the
no,
basis
no,
of the arrest warrant. They're not. They refuse even to
right,
examine the claims that are made in the arrest warrant. Okay,
right.
this is just pablum.
But what's interesting is this is a point that Norman Finkelstein makes, is what Israel does to justify itself is that it makes up numbers about how many Hamas fighters that it's killed. So when it does that, it can say, well, we maintain the sort of 1-to-1 proportion, or 1.5-to-1 proportion, and that makes us the most humane military that has ever been.
Why?
Because, so they say, well, let's say 40,000 civilians are dead. And they say, oh, yeah, but we've killed, I don't know, 17,000 Hamas fighters. But that's the numbers that are just made up. And then of course, people like Alan Dershowitz say, look, they killed 17,000 Hamas fighters, only 40,000 civilians. That's a better ratio than any country in the world has succeeded in fighting against terrorists. But that 17,000 is just made up. They have no basis for claiming that they've killed 17,000 Hamas fighters. But this is how they say this is completely outrageous. These accusations.
But the Gaza, the Hamas, the Gaza registry, where do they come? Why do they have the number 44,000 plus? Why that number, everyone? That's the people that they can absolutely confirm.
Right.
If there was a British group that came out, I guess it was a month, 6 weeks ago, just doing modeling. Well into 200,000 people have been killed.
Right.
You know what? Because the rest are under the rubble. You can't.
Right.
There's no trace of them. I mean,
Right.
if a person is completely shredded, I mean, how do you
Right.
identify that person?
Right. No, that's right. And anyway, Netanyahu goes on. The decision to issue an arrest warrant against the prime minister was made by a corrupt chief prosecutor who is trying to save himself from sexual harassment accusations and biased judges who are motivated by anti-Semitic hatred of Israel. So now we're ready twice.
Yeah, but see, it's paragraphs like this. This is directed towards some bureaucrats in Brussels, some bureaucrats and politicians in the UK and the US and all that. But this doesn't jive with everybody else. I mean, this again, they're not confronting the charges against them. They're just accusing and slurring the accusers. Okay, it doesn't cut the mustard for anybody.
No, that's right. So then it goes on, and here we have the president, the Israeli president, who says, this is a dark day for justice, a dark day for humanity. Taken in bad faith, the outrageous decision of the ICC has turned universal justice into a universal laughingstock. It makes a mockery of the sacrifice of all those who fight for justice, from the Allied victory.
Here we go.
Fight for justice.
Here we go. From the
over.
Allied victory over Nazis till
That's
today.
right, exactly, the Nazi. So, going strong on this Nazis, Holocaust, and anti-Semitic, and then he goes, it ignores the plight of the 101 Israeli hostages held in brutal captivity by Hamas in Gaza. Well, it doesn't really. I mean, they have issued indictments against Hamas, so it's not ignoring it. I mean, they're just simply saying that invoking somebody else has committed war crimes doesn't justify your war crimes. That's not a defense. So it ignores the plight of the 101 Israeli hostages. And it ignores Hamas's cynical use of its own people as human shields. This is again the tired argument. It ignores the
Look,
basic
everyone,
fact.
look, the people of the Gaza have nowhere to go. What's going on in Sudan and Somalia and all that, obviously tragic. They can get up and leave. They can run away.
Right.
People cannot run away.
Right. Right. It ignores the basic fact that Israel was barbarically attacked and had the duty and right to defend its people. And it ignores the fact that Israel is a vibrant democracy acting under international humanitarian law and going to great lengths to provide for the humanitarian needs of the civilian population. Well, the problem you have there is that not one international human rights organization believes that you've done that. Not one. None of them. So you're making these claims, but nobody, the United Nations does not accept that you've done this.
Yeah, of course, they're all anti-Semitic.
They're all anti-Semitic. Yeah, that's right.
It's really tiresome,
Right. And then, indeed, the decision has chosen the side of terror and evil over democracy and freedom, and turned the very system of justice into a human shield for Hamas's crimes against humanity. And then the cynical exploitation of the international legal institution reminds us once again of the need for true moral clarity. I love this, moral clarity. That's exactly what we're getting from Israel. Moral clarity as it pulverizes and destroys basically a tiny strip of land. I mean, the Gaza Strip, it's very, very, very small. Anyway,
okay.
so
of course, here we go. Okay, the Nazis have been invoked, and who's next?
That's right. Yeah.
An Iranian empire of
That's
evil.
it, exactly. And until whether Iran, where does Iran get into all of this? It's an Iranian empire of evil that seeks to destabilize our region and the world and destroy the very institutions of the free world.
The only country destabilizing the region is Israel.
That's right. Now, this is Senator John Thune, who has taken over from Mitch McConnell as
not the sharpest knife in the drawer.
That's right. He's going to he's going to be the new Senate Majority Leader. And he says the ICC's arrest warrant against Prime Minister Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Gallant is outrageous, unlawful, and dangerous. Leader Schumer should bring a bill to the floor sanctioning the ICC. If he chooses not to act, the new Senate Republican majority next year will. No question that will happen. Then Lindsey Graham, who just simply went on a kind of Twitter tirade. I mean, just completely off his rocker. The ICC has acted in the most absurd and irresponsible manner possible by issuing arrest warrants against the Prime Minister and former Defense Minister of Israel, while there's a serious cloud of allegations hanging over the prosecutor who sought those warrants.
No, that's not true. That's just a media slur, okay? Because Israel always goes after the head of the ICC, always, and it's very well documented. The problem with Khan is that he's really boring, okay, and he's a straight arrow, and so that's why they have to come up with allegations,
right.
Okay,
right, yes.
This guy is essentially squeaky clean.
Yeah,
and if there had been evidence, it surely would have been produced much earlier.
Okay. I would have thought so. The court is a dangerous joke. It is now time for the US Senate to act and sanction this irresponsible body. And
Coming
then,
from Lindsey Graham.
the court defied every concept of fundamental fairness and legitimized a corrupt prosecutor's actions.
Yeah, but see, this is what they did to Julian Assange. Remember, everybody?
Right.
It's the same thing. Okay, he's a rapist. Okay, right. Donald Trump's a rapist. Okay, they always pull this.
Oh yeah, always. Yeah, that's the whenever you have any man in any position of authority, then that's what you do. You always bring up sexual allegations. Assange. Trump, and of course, you have it with the Trump nominees, Gates, and everything. Of course, you had the Supreme Court nominees. It's always something, sexual. So calling for an independent investigation of the prosecutor's misconduct one day and issuing a warrant based on his work product the next day is an affront to any sense of fairness and the rule of law. And then again, Senator Schumer needs to...
on his work product the next day. The next day? I mean, we've been waiting since May.
That's right. Senator Schumer needs to pass this bipartisan legislation that came from the House sanctioning the court for such an outrage, and President Biden needs to sign it.
But again, George, every single time we have this denunciation, they never address the arrest warrant.
No.
Never address the content of it.
Right.
They did with Julian Assange. It's the sexual inappropriate behavior. But what did WikiLeaks release?
No, that's right.
Okay, so they don't want to address the arrest warrant.
No. Well, exactly. In the case of Julian Assange, of course, they brought up it was Russia. So it was Russia, and that was the only thing that mattered. That somehow the origin was Russia. And then again, Lindsey Graham, he just went on and on with these tweets.
He's got time on his hands.
I guess he has. I mean, it's very interesting. They're not doing anything. I joined Senator Blumenthal, Senator Thune, Senator Fetterman, Senator Katie Britt, Senator Ernst. This is like almost like a kind of Marx Brothers sketch. You go and now Senator this, Senator, they're all these senators. So
yeah, the senator from the state of Hootie. Okay,
that's right. Senator, Senator. It was like to respond to the ICC arrest warrants, and then this is our statement. We are disappointed in the ICC's decision to move ahead with arrest warrants against Prime Minister Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Gallant, given the court's lack of jurisdiction over Israel and its refusal to engage with Israel as required by law. But of course, that's the lack of jurisdiction is exactly the same lack of jurisdiction as over Russia, and they never said that because Russia is not a signature to the Rome Statute any more than Israel is. But nonetheless, they didn't bring up the whole issue of lack of jurisdiction. But according to ICC rules, they have jurisdiction if one party, the party that brings this up, claims war crimes, then they have jurisdiction. And we cannot abide the court acting against a sovereign, independent, judicially independent democracy that is not a party to the Rome Statute. Now is an important time for America to speak with a single voice. Acquiescing to the court's jurisdiction over Israel is to agree in theory they have jurisdiction over the United States.
Well, I mean, again, this is just pablum. We cannot abide the court acting against a sovereign, independent, judicially independent democracy. Well, what did any of those things have to do?
Yeah.
Okay, with the issue at hand. Okay, this is just deflect.
Right.
The United States calls itself a democracy and it commits war crimes on a very regular basis.
Well, that was when
it's not a member of the ICC.
No, it's not. But remember when the previous prosecutor, there was Bensouda, there was that woman who was then, and she said, "Well, I'm going to look into whether maybe America committed war crimes in Afghanistan." Trump was president at the time. They immediately imposed sanctions on the ICC and denied her and all her staff visas to enter the United States. So that's automatic, boom. But this is kind of interesting because again, the United States wants to impose sanctions, not because it's doing something against the United States, but because it's doing something against Israel. So that's, you have to, that's the impose sanctions. Lindsey Graham again. He just can't stop. I cannot emphasize enough my strong objection to what the ICC has done to the state of Israel.
Lindsey, we already know.
He's got nothing else to. I mean, you'd think that. I mean,
you think his hands were like shaking when he was writing.
The ICC is a rogue and politically motivated organization that's trampling on the very concept of the rule of law.
So the same ICC that is rogue. So how do you? But you agree with the indictment against Vladimir Putin.
That's
so,
right.
But
that was okay. Yeah.
If it's a totally rogue and illegitimate organization, so why wouldn't you say the same thing?
That's right. I remember when they issued their indictment against Muammar Gaddafi during the time of the NATO bombing of Libya. I don't remember hearing too much from Lindsey objecting to. Basically, they issued an indictment without conducting any kind of an investigation of what Gaddafi had supposedly done. I am confident that President Trump understands that the court's actions against Israel sets the foundations for the ICC to come after the United States one day.
I guess that's why you're so upset, Lindsey. Yep.
We must respond forcefully to the court for our own good.
Oh,
any nation.
But the mask drops right there. The mask is off. Okay.
Any nation or organization.
Everybody knows, George. Everybody knows this. The indictments, the arrest warrants for Netanyahu and Gallant is by connection an indictment of the United States, of Jake Sullivan, of Joe Biden, and there are all the rest of them. That's why they're afraid.
Right. Any nation or organization that aids or abets this outrage should expect to meet firm resistance from the United States. And I look forward to working with President Trump, his team, and my colleagues in Congress to come up with a powerful response. And then again, Lindsey Graham. He's just going berserk. To President Biden, President Trump, and current and future members of Congress, if we do not act forcefully against the ICC after their outrageous decision to issue arrest warrants for the duly elected Israeli Prime Minister and former Minister of Defense, we are making a huge mistake, and I fear the United States is next.
Well, I don't know. Maybe this is just the bugaboo for me, but democratically elect. Well, what does that have to do with it?
It doesn't have anything. It doesn't have anything to do with the perpetration of war crimes. And now, and again, he goes, Israel is not a member of the ICC, nor is the United States. Israel has a very robust legal system. Well, where is that robust legal system? And so does the United States. If we do not fight back against the ICC's attack on Israel, it is as if we are conceding that they have jurisdiction over the United States.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
We cannot let the world believe for a moment that this is a legitimate exercise of jurisdiction by the court's action against Israel, because to do so means that we could be next. And then I will be introducing legislation that puts other countries on notice. If you aid and abet the ICC after their action against the state of Israel, you can expect consequences from the United States.
Sanctions, baby, sanctions. Yeah.
Any nation that joins with the ICC after this outrage is a partner in a reckless act that tramples on the rule of law.
Well, I hope you had 5 scotches after that one, Lindsey.
That's right. And now Tom Cotton.
A lot out of you.
Tom Cotton weighs in. The ICC is a kangaroo court, and Karim Khan is a deranged fanatic. Woe to him and anyone who tries to enforce these outlaw warrants. Let me give them all a friendly reminder. The American law on the ICC is known as the Hague Invasion Act for a reason. Think about it. So clearly he's warning, we're going to invade. Well, not just The Hague. I mean, clearly he's saying, woe to him and anyone who tries to enforce these outlaw warrants. And then it's not called a Hague Invasion Act for a reason. Think about it. So we're going to we're going to go to war against, I don't know, any country. If you do something, you muss the hair.
Well, the Netherlands is a sympathizes with Putin's Russia, George. I mean, that's going to start. Okay.
And AIPAC weighs in. Thank you, Lindsey Graham, for standing with our ally Israel against the ICC's morally bankrupt and legally baseless attacks. The Senate
and by the way, Lindsey, the check's in the mail.
That's right. The Senate must pass the Illegitimate Court Counteraction Act to sanction those aiding the court to prosecute Americans or Israelis.
Oh, that's a good one there. Illegitimate Court Counteraction Act. And this is like advertising. I bet people that come up with these things get paid big bucks. Okay.
Illegitimate court.
So it's the ICCA.
Right. The ICCA. That's right. Yeah, that's right. So they're going to have that. Then I guess they're going to be passing legislation quite soon. Banning all manifestations of anti-Semitism. So that I think that's on the books. And colleges will no longer, any college that any manifestation of anti-Semitism, you can forget about getting any government grants if you allow any the Palestinian organizations on your campus. And look who weighs in. Viktor Orban is always on hand to lend his hand to Israel. The ICC arrest warrant against Prime Minister Netanyahu is brazen, cynical, and completely unacceptable. I invited Prime Minister Netanyahu for an official visit to Hungary, where we will guarantee his freedom and safety.
But see, I think George and I brought this up before. This is kind of like the Dershowitz phenomenon, okay? Because when I was still watching Fox, Dershowitz would come on, and if he was on Sean Hannity, he never got to say anything, but other hosts were better. And George and I would comment at great length what he would have to say about Trump's impeachment,
right?
In other constitutional elements. But when it comes to Israel, just is Zionism blinded? Right. And same thing is with Viktor Orban.
Yes, that's right. But this is the this is the phenomenon of these the European right, that they somehow identify their issues with those of Israel. So that somehow they see Israel as this sort of paradigm for the sovereign, independent nation state, the kind of thing that's what we want here in Europe, and they see Israel as the paradigm of that. And then they never really look at any of the any other issues. So it is Orban, Nigel Farage, the guy in the Netherlands, what's it? Geertz or
Wilder.
Yeah, Geert Wilder. They somehow always think if they come after Israel, they're going to come after us. So we completely identify ourselves with.
Well, I mean, why would they come after you? Have you done anything wrong?
Well, that's it. So, even when
come on. I mean, being an adult about it, okay? I mean, again, maybe for the fifth time in this conversation, nobody wants to address in these tweets and these comments the content of the arrest warrant. Let's talk about what's in there. What about starvation? Let's talk about that. That's not mentioned in all of these criticisms.
Right. No, that's exactly right. So yeah, that they always do this. And then they have these characters like we talked about, this Hazoni, who operates out of Israel and who's the creator of things like the Edmund Burke Foundation and the idea of this populist nationalism coming straight out of Israel. And somehow he organizes these conferences, and it's always attended by Viktor Orban and Nigel Farage, and they say, yeah, we were absolutely, we're being persecuted by the globalists, by the United Nations, the World Health Organization. Yeah, we and Israel must stand together. It's a completely fraudulent identification. So it's kind of unfortunate. I mean, but Hungary, for some reason, it's going through this somehow a strange, demented kind of philo-Semitism, somehow making up for sins committed, many decades ago, which is always a very bad idea. That was then. You can't confuse what happened then to what's happening now. But that's the way it is in Hungary.
Yeah, but see, George has graciously provided with us some of the quote unquote leading lights of the Western world on this. But around the globe, this news has been met with gratitude, belatedly, because maybe there's a glimmer of hope that this Western institution might actually commit itself to its mandate, because this is the last chance for the ICC. I mean, the Lindsey Grahams have no idea how damaged this institution is, okay, in the eyes of the world. So, I mean, it plays in different ways, but I mean, again, in the same week, I guess the day before, what was the fourth or fifth ceasefire the United States vetoed in the Security Council. I mean, the world is of one opinion. Two other countries, the UK voted for the ceasefire. Okay, right. France did. Okay, right. Yeah. Okay, but this is a overwhelming global consensus. Okay, right. But the Lindsey Grahams of the world, there is the international community is a group of people he can have lunch with. That's the globe as well.
Right. Yeah. No. That's right. And the question is now, what happens now? Now, of course, in theory, yes, Netanyahu could visit a country that is a party to the Rome Statute, and they don't have to, but they could enforce the arrest warrant. But I doubt whether that's going to happen, because I think that if there was even any danger that he'd be arrested, they would probably just tell him not to come. Like Britain, isn't, I mean, Keir Starmer has been very
but public opinion, George.
Public opinion.
You want to rattle that box?
Right. Yeah? I just think they're going to say, don't come. I mean, Netanyahu doesn't really travel that much. I mean, he could go to the United States. No one's going to arrest him in the United States.
He can go to Russia.
Exactly. I was going to say that he can go to Russia. He's not going to get arrested there. He really probably should go to Russia. He hasn't really been particularly supportive of Russia. Russia has been very supportive of him, but he himself has not been especially supportive of Russia in its war. So it probably behooves him now to make a visit to Russia and kind of give an account of himself as to why exactly. I mean, he's been giving some assistance to Ukraine, which is not exactly appropriate, given how essentially Russia has been quite mute in its response to Israel.
Yeah, it's one of these. You have such strong mixed feelings about all of this. Okay, was the right thing done? Yeah, I absolutely. But from an institution that is so wobbly when it comes to moral certainty,
right? No, I think no.
And the Rome Statute itself. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's not really open to interpretation very much. I mean, that's why you have a law, okay? Right, so you don't have ambiguity. And so this is a very, very weak institution, weak-willed, weak execution, very selective. but they had to do it because then what is the whole point of this? And what we see right now, because of this Israel's behavior, is the complete collapse of international law. I mean, if it doesn't apply to one country, then it doesn't apply to any country. And this is the logic of it all. And the ICC knows this. Okay, the ICJ knows this too. So this is a really tragic time. Is it going to come to anything? No.
No, it's not going to come. And of course, it's one of those things about international law is that, nobody really does anything about it. I mean, people talk about it, but nobody does it. It's like the old joke about the weather. People keep complaining about it, but nobody does anything about it. So it's like international law, and nobody really does anything about it because ultimately, if you have the power, then no one's going to, invoke international law against you. And that's, the truth with the United States. No one's going to do it. And of course, the United States has its NATO vassal who are signatory to the Rome Statute. So they're also safe.
Yeah,
and so that's why, that's why international law has only ever been invoked against those who are too weak to defend themselves.
Yeah, but on the upside is that it just confirms the international consensus. I mean, you're right. And weak states can't do much because they're weak. Okay. But this is much more than just a legal case. It's a moral case, and it is a moral indictment of the West, and that is something to keep in mind because nobody wants to be associated with this stench. Okay, and it does have its import is there, not legally, not under any kind of consensus international law, but morally, yeah, it's a major victory. And I don't underestimate that. I think that's very important.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, because, ultimately, same with the ICJ. I mean, the ICJ has innumerable times has ruled against Israel. And what happens? Well, basically, Israel says, you're just an anti-Semitic organization. We're not going to pay any attention to what you say. And the Americans echo this. And yeah, it's on the record. I mean, there it is. There's the ICJ judgment. You can go download it. But it doesn't really amount to anything.
I can't disagree with you. But what my point is, this is another, it's cumulative. This is we could talk about trade wars and interest rates and prime, and all this kind of stuff here. Genocide is in a different category, all right? And it does impact people. It is impacting the world around. I mean, every single major organization that's not under the control of the West has condemned Israel, welcomes this here. It's a cumulative thing. It's not a game changer. Nothing's going to change this afternoon. Nothing's going to change tomorrow. But cumulative over time, I think it does. Okay. And maybe because I want to still hope that humanity has something good to say about itself. Okay. Maybe that's the only thing left. Right. I mean, don't give up. I mean, that's the whole thing. Just don't give up. And it's like you said, I mean, Netanyahu and Gallant, they probably don't travel very much, but they're probably going to travel a lot less.
Yeah, that's right. But I don't know. I just I don't even remember Netanyahu traveling very much. I mean, I don't know where other than he went to Russia,
living in a bunker, George.
Yeah, but I mean, but even before the war, I mean, I don't, yes, he used to come regularly to the U.S. He came. I remember he coming to Russia. He came a few times to Russia.
I think he's probably been in Sochi more times than officially reported.
Right. Yeah. But other than that, I don't remember seeing Netanyahu traveling very much. And there are going to be a number of countries in Europe, Germany in particular. Germany is going to say, no, we're not going to arrest Netanyahu. So I think he can. They just said. Or I think the German government already has said, well, it's a very difficult situation for us, particularly in Germany. So we're going to look into it, but we're in a very difficult situation.
The last people that should ever say something, shame on them. Shame on them.
Yeah. Shame. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. All right, we'll see where it goes. It is historically notable, very important. That's why George and I have devoted time to it. what its implications are, it remains to be seen. Okay, but it is historic, and I welcome it. Okay, ICC, can you salvage yourself? I don't know. I don't know. And maybe you need some bunkers or air defense because Tom Cotton, he's a complete political clown, but he is a senator. Okay,
He's a senator, and
and Pete Hegg said, well, he might go along with it. Okay.
yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Americans impose some kind of economic sanctions against the ICC. I mean, they have dollar, they can use the dollar against anybody. No more dollar transactions for you. And we can just simply seize their assets.
Given, George. That's a given. Okay. I mean, they're going to come up. They'll want to arrest people from the ICC. The persona non grata, no visas. Okay, who knows what the nasty, dirty tricks that they'll come up with? Who knows? Okay.
Yeah, so, no, again, I wouldn't be surprised if they issued an arrest warrant for Karim Khan. I think that's next on the agenda. I mean, again, this new Attorney General, Pam Bondi, she's very, very much in the Israel corner. She knew who had power in Florida, and she's an absolute ardent Israel fan.
She'll say, "Where do I sign?"
Exactly. So yeah, absolutely. Arrest warrant on Karim Khan.
That's where we are. That's where we are. No. So another blow to the rules-based order, everyone. Okay. I really hope, George, in the next administration they don't use that term. I'm so sick and tired.
I think that's I think one thing that your hope I think will be fulfilled. That's just not Trump. That Trump doesn't go down that path. Trump, yeah, he wants everything for America, nothing for anyone else. But again, the rules-based order just means nothing to him. So I don't think they're going to use that. And he's not going to have global democracy summit.
No, he's not. He's going to have Buy America Summit.
Exactly. That's right. Buy American, hire American. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Because we're the indispensable country in the world. All right. God, George, so much is happening and so much is going to happen before January. It's exhausting when you think about it. Okay. Because by the time we finish this podcast, something else has happened. All right, everybody. We're signing off for the week. Okay. This is Peter and George. We're the Gaggle. We're on local, so please go to thegaggle.locals.com. This is our Friday wrap. We'll have a kind of Sunday wrap as we do. It's usually long, a lot of slides.
Not always.
Always. We do our live stream on Monday. We'll do it at 10 o'clock Eastern time. That's an hour later for me. Again, my third apology today. I'm sorry it didn't work out on Monday of this week, but we did a diagnostic. I think everything's okay.
That's right. And then on Tuesday, I do my solo live stream, 3 p.m. Eastern time. And now comes the difficult situation, which is look at these ferocious hounds. They're more savage than a pack of hyenas. So they want the money in the tip jar. That's an absolute unconditional demand of theirs. So just to keep everything on an even keel, if you have a few bob in your pocket, a few bob stashed away behind the sofa cushions, whip them out, dunk them into the tip jar. We really don't want a pack of hyenas on our backs. So we're very grateful for all of your help, friendship, and support. The more you're able to donate, the more of these videos we can make, the more we can improve on the technology, and above all, get dogs that are getting a little calm, which is merciful. So
order.
Yeah, exactly. So remember, if you like the Gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye-bye.